and welcome everybody to the GMBN Racing News Show with myself, Rich Payne, and today I'm joined by Mr. Olympics, Oli Beckingsale. Oli, thanks for joining me, buddy.
Thanks for having me here. What a cracking weekend.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so the UCI World Championships mega event is going on up in Scotland, culminating in the cross country in the weekend just gone. Let's first up talk about the course at Glen Tress, because it was a freshie, it was a brand new course for this. Yep. It looked insane, right?
Yeah, Glen Tress, obviously one of the biggest bike parks in Scotland, but in the UK in general, and they've got a fresh course, new features, and what they packed into that 3.5k, I've never seen it before. It was the practice in advance.
Yeah.
You know, all the posts going out on socials, the big gap jump, the photos from the side.
That was a talking point, right? I mean, and you know, that was wild. Have a look at this crash from that. Yeah, I mean, not to be taken lightly, right? I mean, that's quite a big obstacle for an XC track.
Yeah, we had 4 main features. As we came down off that long descent in the woods, you know, you've got the normal stuff, the off-camber routes, all the techie, like tricky stuff to ride, but then we had a big gap jump across the river, the big rock slab vert thing.
The salmon ladder.
The
salmon ladder, that was it.
With this nasty entry and then a 3 metre kind of blind drop.
It was quite tight into it, right?
Tight coming up like 20 centimetres, you had to be dialed. And then, you know, big issues if you didn't get that one nailed. A lot of people earlier in the week, when it was a bit damp as well, the rocks coming in, they went up there the day before the seniors XC race and ground lines into the rocks.
Oh, to like aid with extra grip sort of thing?
To give a bit of purchase.
Right. I mean, and I think this is the first time we've ever seen A, B, and now C lines in sections. I don't think we've ever seen that at an XC race before.
No, as you saw that, the salmon ladder, which is a big rock slab, a B line to the side, which, if you looked at the B line, that would have been an A line, possibly from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So things are just kind of moving on. But I say that the big kind of picture from the side, that big gap jump, 3 metres, completely dug out. You know, it was kind of, it was full on. It made for some great action.
It definitely, I mean, and so put the severity into context, Puck Peters actually, and a few others I noticed, actually opting to practice with knee pads on. Now, before we jump into before racing even began, there was a bit of controversy because there was a very last-minute rule change by the UCI, right?
Yeah, there was, sir.
So this was essentially centred around, it only really affected a few riders, but it was riders that weren't ranked being moved up in the grid.
Yeah, so your start line for a World Cup race, World Championships, is based on the world ranking. You know, so you see Nino Shooter #1, and the guy who's never done a World Cup in his life, he's in the boot in 95th place.
Makes sense, right?
It makes sense. So, what we've got is we've got some multidiscipline riders coming in that are focused more on the road. The big one, Matthew van der Poel, who won the World Road Race Championship, and he was going for the triple header. Never been done in the men's before. Pauline Ferrand Prevot had done it in the women's, 2015, which is just insane, but trying to do it in the men's. Cyclocross, road and mountain bike at the same time, World Championships, which is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, right.
But coming back in and then going, actually, I don't really fancy starting in 95th place. He has no world ranking at the moment.
No, and other riders affected were Peter Sagan, obviously, hugely talented road rider.
Yep.
And Pidcock was in on that as well, but Pidcock to a lesser degree.
I wouldn't put him in the same group. Lesser degree, he's won a World Cup this year. Yeah. He's won Swiss Cups this year. He put a time aside, really, to get his gridding better for this race. So he's dedicated some time out of his busy life and programme on the road to put some time aside and win a World Cup, get a ranking. He only moved up 1 row.
Yes, it's a minimal effect on him. It's really that Sagan and Van der Poel who are coming from almost a dead last, I believe.
95th on the grid, up to 35th.
Yeah.
Pidcock jumping 10 spots. But it was like the regular World Cup guys, they had an advantage, which was then not nullified because they were still starting in 35th. They weren't put on the front row, but they were a lot closer. And it meant that on that start loop, where if you're that far back in a cross-country race, you lose a lot of time. And the other thing is you have to expend a lot of energy.
Right, Ollie, before we dive into the big results, the hot topic, a few sort of questions on riders, sort of who we think is going to do well, who potentially wasn't, maybe a bit on the back foot. Sam Gaze, the big New Zealander, coming into this.
Yeah, so it's funny, if you look at the form guide this year, we've had 4 World Cup races. For some riders, they've had a European Championship, but then a big gap. Yeah. So they've all gone away, had time to train, regroup, recover from injuries, coming back to this. So we're never, normally a World Championship it's at the back end of the season, normally early September. So you've had World Cups quite close to it. So you've got a really good idea from a kind of commentary or pundit point or a fan point of view. Who's kind of in the mix. Whereas here we had a big gap. So you've got someone like, say, Sam Gaze, short track and marathon world champion from last year. Not a great season so far. Looking pretty good. They had a relay at the start of the week. Did a good lap there. You've got the classic, Nino Schutter, world champion, 10-time world champion. He's always going to be there. Vlad Dascalou, European, dark horse.
European champ. I'd put a little bit of money on him. If I was a betting man, I think Vlad is a guy that could maybe come through.
And then you've got, the crazy thing is, the only 2 world champions in the men's on the start line was Nino and Jordan Sarrou.
Yes.
He's the only other person on the start. There's one. If we look at the women's, we've got Mona Vitavalna. She's coming in, marathon world champion. That was a week before. Over 4-hour race around the biggest hills of Scotland. That's not gonna, it proves you're in good form, but to recover from that in 6 days?
On to the results. The under-23 women XCO, what a race.
It was classic, wasn't it?
Samara Maxwell, the New Zealander. New Zealand are on a flyer at the moment.
It started off, Samara Maxwell, from the start loop, they do a small start, got to the front and just put her head down and just ticked off lap after lap. She made one mistake on Little Rock Garden all lap and just kept extending her lead. And there's the 2 outright favourites before the start, never got in the race and just bombed.
Unbelievable ride. Now, onto the XCO under-23 men's. Well, again, a flat-out pace, not sort of around hour 13 of racing, so a really intense, high pace. We had sort of 3 riders battling it out towards the end, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a different race to the under-23 women. That was where one rider took it on and just dropped everybody. In the men's, it was far more cagey. I had a front group of 5, then it went down to 4, and then we were left with 3 riders. Britain's Charlie Aldridge, Adrien Brochu from France, and then Dario Lillo from Switzerland. And they all kept having little punches.
Just testing each other, wasn't it? You could see him just having a pop at the climb, seeing who was
Charlie was a little bit maybe better on the descent. Dario Lillo was pushing on the climb. Adrien Brochu was just keeping his head down. Is he blagging it? There was literally elbow to elbow, bar to bar for the downhill. Full pain face all over the bike. Aldridge got it. He then used his technical skills to get 5 seconds, broke, the elastic snapped, held them off on the last part of the course and got the win for Britain.
Smashed it. Congratulations, Charlie Aldridge, first place at hour 13. On to the big ones, the men's and women's elite cross-country short track. In the women's elite cross-country short track world championships, it was another mind-boggling race with Pauline Ferrand Prevot taking another win.
Yeah, again, it was a super cagey race. It's a more basic course. It was basically based on 2 short punchy climbs and a rolly descent and then a long start finish straight. But yeah, it was all cagey. Evie Richard had a pop at the front. Puck Peters had a pop. She had a go as well. Pauline Ferrand Prevot just kept her head down and she had a plan. And the plan was on the last climb of the last lap. Oh my God.
See ya. See ya later, wasn't it?
Massive watt bomb, drop, gone. Almost 15 seconds, almost in one hill. It was just insane. And almost, then down the start finish straight, cruise, big smile, like it was just
Puck
a training session.
She wasn't miles behind, only 4 seconds back, with Evie only 9 seconds back of Pauline as well. But the damage had been done, right? And I think there's something. So Pauline was obviously on that new Pinarello hardtail, lightweight, very suited to short track.
Yes. And new bike, literally launched the day before the race. So you don't get a lot better than that.
It'd be interesting to know how much time she had on it.
Yeah, a little bit of time. But those guys at Ineos don't mess around.
No, they are quite the crew, aren't they? On to the men's race. We're talking about watt bombs.
That poor bike.
The start line of this was Schwartzbauer, or as I call him, Schwartzpower.
Yeah.
You've got Gaze, you've got Koretsky, Pidcock's up there, you've got Nino's in there. There's more watts there than I could.
And again, it was really similar to the women's race, quite cagey. And this year we've generally seen Schwartzbauer, he's won a couple of World Cups, and he sits at the front, controls the race, waits for the last hill, and then just gives it. And
he'd be a safe bet, right?
Yeah, no one can keep up. What we saw is Gaze just went, I know what I'll do. I'll do a Schwartzbauer. And they both were trying to kind of control the race at the front, and then they hit the last climb, but this time Gaze, it was unbelievable.
Only 2 seconds back again. A very powerful finish. Now, the big talking point that I want to go on here just is Schwarzbauer and Pidcock. Because Schwarzbauer sitting third, coming into the finish.
Yep.
Pidcock, big dive up the inside. I mean, that's a motocross move to be proud of if I was riding.
Yeah, and there's no...
Bit rough?
Little rough. Grey area.
Robbins racing, you might say?
Yeah, and I think so. He didn't go up the barriers. He didn't force him away. He just went... He dive-bombed him. He definitely dive-bombed him.
There's no doubt about that.
But it was open. Yeah. There was an open line. He squared it off. Schwarzbauer came in. He had a choice at that point. You know, Pidcock was in front at that point, just. And I think just you've got a choice. You know, you can then try and keep on your line. Yeah, I think both people would. What Pidcock would say it was fair game. Schwarzbauer would be
noticeably angry across the line.
But I think there's no rules broken.
On to Saturday's big head-to-head then. Oli, what a race in the women's. So Pauline Ferrand Prevot, dominant again, taking the double. Double.
I think she probably rode the short track and just kept riding for 48 hours, doing laps, and then started the elite race. And then so first lap, she didn't get the best of starts. It was a hot race, and Lorna Lecomte took it on. She did a cracking race and rode her own thing. She just, you get sometimes people will go, well, okay, I'm going to be a bit cagey. I'm going to think about the competition. She just rode a really good pace. She was leading. Prevot passed her on the start of lap 2 and literally rode off. I mean, but she just did her own thing. And sometimes you've just got to ride from A to B in a cross-country race as efficiently and as fast as you can. It
was almost a sort of an air of roboticness watching her go up that climb, just big gear.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lorna Lecomte sort of put it to her early on in the race, couldn't hack the pace. Puck Pieterse, strong push. Only 21 years old, we've got to remember.
And she tried to follow.
But still rode strong into her third place. Despite some massive pressure from Mona Mitterwollner as well, another under 21 rider. Also, I got to say, Mona and Pauline, both from hardtails.
Yeah.
Quite surprising to see.
On that course, I wouldn't ride around there. On a hardtail.
Mona reeling in puck as well on that last
again,
lap.
Slower start. Maybe that marathon world champs a bit in her legs, so a couple of laps to get going, and then came through. The old diesel kicked in. And Miss Varand, she got back into third.
I was going to say, she passed
I thought she had a medal, but then on the last descent, Pieterse got back in and did her for bronze. So, it was a cracking race.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? Right, on to the big one, the men's race. Again, horsepower for days lined up on this flipping...
so it was billed as the XC race of all time with 10-time world champion Nina Schurter, Tom Pidcock, Olympic champion, Mathieu van der Poel, cyclocross and men's road race champion, and won a few World Cups on the mountain bike in this time.
Sam Gay's fresh off short track.
Yeah, and it was like, whoa, this is going to go down. And then it did go down.
Yeah.
On the start loop, Mathieu van der Poel crashing out on a gravel bend, the one where Schwarzbauer and Pidcock had her coming together, and out.
And that was all she wrote. That was it, game over.
So it's like, okay, now we're down to Pidcock and Schurter really were the big favourites after that.
I would, I mean, everyone was touting Van der Poel as like, the outsider, but he definitely could do it. I don't want to say disappointing, but I thought he would have got back up and had a go, but you don't know how hard the crash was. He grazed his face, his knee
and I
took
think
a hit.
You also know in cross-country now, the races are so tight, and we saw the first 5 within a minute. By the time you've got up, sorted yourself out,
you're
right. And that guy was only coming to win. A 10th place is not part of his tick list.
No, all or nothing kind
of
guy.
But the guys at the front went mad.
And there's a big pack, 98 riders in this race.
98 riders.
That's a lot.
So we saw Jordan Sarrou, previous world champion, Alan Haverley. They all took it on, and they were like, right. So Pidcock's a bit further back, Sam Gay's a bit further back. Let's get out of here. Let's make life hard work for them. And they all had a go, all kept the pace high.
They're just jostling, right?
But Pidcock took from his 35th place on the grid, which is hard work to me. You could see him whizzing up through, elbows
on that
out.
Climb, you can see him motoring up the side of everyone on that
big
climb.
Effort, wasting a lot of energy, but he had no choice. He had to get to the front group, but he made the front group after only 20 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And you can imagine those guys in the front group going, okay, we've got this, and then all of a sudden you're like,
here we go. Here we go. Oh, great, here we go again. Well, we thought we might have killed him off, but unfortunately not. Sam Gaze, the diesel, turbo diesel.
Yeah.
13th on lap 3.
Yeah.
4th by lap 5.
Yeah. And he was coming quick.
With
Koretsky hanging on for dear life on his back
Koretsky was
wheel.
like...
So they were
coming.
coming through. The front guys were, quite cagey, and they were closing through. You saw Pidcock. Once he got to the front group, he had a lap or two just to recover a little bit, compose himself, and then he just kept doing these body blows on Nino Shooter. You see, first of all, Haffley got dispatched. Then Saru got dispatched.
Yeah.
Then you started to see Nino every time Pidcock hit a hill, he just gave him a little nudge. And then Shooter started pulling faces,
and
then
that's when you know that Shirter's in trouble. Like,
he
pushing,
doesn't normally pull faces.
Yeah.
And then that was it. Then all of a sudden the elastic snapped. Pidcock on his own. You're like, he's done it. He's going to win it. And then you're like, oh no.
Massive looming New Zealander, hauling on every single lap.
The last few laps, he was the fastest on course.
Another lap might have had a different result, sort of thing, or have he pushed a bit harder a bit earlier? But yes, Tom Pidcock is your new UCI mountain bike world champion.
Yep, and the first male British world champion.
And that's the Brits getting the downhill.
Yeah,
under 23 men's and elite men's.
Yeah,
Sam Gaze, an incredible rider into second place, and Nino clung on in there for a bronze.
Yeah, classic.
I think he'll be pleased with that.
The guy's 37.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
And he's racing these young guns now. He's not winning every race, but he has a win rate. But he was genuinely chuffed with third. And then we saw Victor Koretsky, best ride he's done in years, in an unhappy, angry fourth. But that's, there we go.
And Vlad Dasklu just, I think he'll be stoked with a 5th place, my dark horse there.
Yeah, classic. What a race. It was unbelievable. And to see, from a patriotic point of view, Brits,
doing well, wasn't it?
Short track, bronzes. We've got Charlie Aldridge, Tom Pidcock, the downhill guys smashing it, which we kind of come to expect, to be honest.
Evie 3rd in the short track.
Yeah, it was
great racing. And don't forget, you can catch up on all of the racing over on the GCN Plus app. Now it's all there. Watch it all back. There's so much going on. I promise you it's well worth it. But from the pair of us for now, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Until next time, see you later.